The boys are back in town. We got creative again. This time, it took a sinister twist. Kyle, what's that all about?
Well, we decided we needed to make a villain for Guy Wolf, so we made him a very cool villain.
What name we're working with?
We're working with Obun.
I can dig that. So, we're to go through the creative process. I was pretty inspired by this and actually made the song before I saw the sketch and sent it to Kyle for him to work off some kind of inspiration from that. Maybe he could pick up certain vibes that I was laying down with the music. So, we're going to show this in a different order than normal. We're going to do the music first, then the sketch and illustration. So stick around, see how all that works. All right, you're looking at the boys here. We got big boy, long boy, and wide boy. The first boy is wide boy. I made some riffs on wide boy. What I did for Obun's theme song is I really wanted to tie him into Guy Wolf, electric guitar, heavy driven, some electronica, and just kind of give him his own vibe by having this classical guitar part in here. This classical guitar part is inspired by a loop that I found in my library of sounds and loops and one-shots and different virtual instruments. But I decided to learn it raw and organically on my nylon string for the purpose of this video and because I wanted to have, like, you know, real instrument, real player kind of a sound. And I think that's me recording the take that you hear on the track. So I transitioned from the wide boy
Who's next?
to the long boy.
Oh, man.
So we got long boy on deck here. This is where I wanted to tie it into, having that distorted rhythm guitar, very much so like you hear in the Guy Wolf theme song. So I wanted to bring that element into it, kind of create some cohesiveness in the project. What you see me doing there is just chugging some palm muted root notes of the chords that are being played in the background. And the reason it's just straight eighth notes right there, I just wanted to create movement and kind of stability for the song with the chugging, and, you know, push the song and keep a certain level of energy. But then since it's with the distorted guitar, it has kind of some weight to it, right?
Yeah.
So now as you're looking at the big boy right here, my 8-string that I've had for a while now, one of my favorite guitars, fantastic. It's one of the only ones I have right now currently maintained with the higher register strings on there, so I use it for leads. Being a 27-inch scale, it seems kind of maybe weird to people that I play such a large guitar for leads, but I do. I've kind of grown accustomed to it too. Now I will say there's certain things I can't do on it that I can do on a smaller guitar. It's a couple inches shorter, but I don't know. I'm not really that much of a lead player anymore like I was in my youth. So it makes do for that. So I added some leads. The leads are kind of, you know, make me inspired in the realm of like the 80s action villain. Gotcha. I think of those kind of guitars screaming in like that. So I wanted to add a subtle element of that in there too, since Obun is indeed the villain. Now, what you're looking at me do here is I'm taking and mixing and adding some of the electronica element. I wanted to tie him in, like I stated earlier, with Eyerae, and giving him some cohesiveness with her vibe, which was she had that kind of electronica, like NES style gaming vibe to it, right?
Yeah.
I think you're floating around somewhere in here.
I just peeked in from the corner. I'm out though. It's good.
And as you can see, I'm mixing it. I've got all my little drum hits in there. I'm just checking, making sure my EQs and of everything is set up the way that I want it to be.
Looks like straight science is happening right now.
In some ways it is. In some ways it's bro science.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, I just sat there. I made a drum beat out of one-shot drum samples from a library of sounds that I have. And then you see me doing this. I take my studio reference headphones, I sit and I absorb my mix, make sure there's no loose ends. And that was a creative process on this. You'll hear that track here in a little bit.
Nice.
Now we're transitioning into your artistic component of this beast.
Yes, the visual part, which is obviously mine, and we've established that. But
And we're lucky, by the way, because mine we would be ruined by now.
well, so obviously, with the way that I start using paper and pencil rather than going straight to using it digitally. Just mainly because what I'm doing here is trying to figure out what style I want to put on the paper to reflect the type of bad guy I want you to feel like he is. So let me explain that better. There's basically, when you're creating villains, two main types of villains. There's villains that are exactly like your hero, and they just made bad choices, and that's kind of the struggle that you see them face off against each other. And then there's villains that absolutely are what they would call the antithesis of your hero. And that's kind of the direction I wanted to go with Obun, whereas Guy Wolf is obviously this big, brooding, muscular, physical hero. I wanted his villain to be someone who obviously looked a little bit more cunning, a little bit more sleek, maybe quicker. So ways to do that in the stylized kind of element that I had established with Guy Wolf and Eyerae so far was to make sure that some of his lines were a little bit more dynamic. So that's why you'll see his legs are a little bit more thinner at the joints. He's got that big sweeping coat that's gonna flow when he moves. He obviously has his sword at his hip, which is a finesse weapon. It's not something that's gonna be a little bit more clunky. And so here I'm just kind of fleshing out the way that I want that to look specifically. So you can see me thinking, basically I'm not creating a fine polished sketch. For the most part, I'm just thinking and drawing simultaneously. I have an idea in my head, and you see me kind of that's why sometimes you'll see my hand move and I won't make any marks there, is I'm just kind of thinking. And so I'm not actually putting something final down. To me, I'm just kind of trying to get shapes and ideas at this point. It's not until I start really feeling like some of the lines are working. So I might, when I move this digitally, just completely take away certain aspects of it. So when I'm in my sketchbook at this point, it's pretty generalized. I'm working general. But yeah, so then when I move over to, I think I'm about to move to my iPad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it's about to happen. Oh, there it is.
See now, all you had to do was mention its name.
I did. I mentioned its name, and there it appeared. And I'm on my iPad now. So yeah, so once I move it in the iPad, that's when I start making a little bit more final decisions. I start putting down bolder lines, obviously, because I'm working with a digital pen brush. So it's not going to be as light, or it is a little pressure sensitive. I was going to say it wasn't, which would have been a little bit of a lie. But so I'm working with a little bit more finer of lines. So I'm making decisions on, okay, I want this many wrinkles in his sleeve versus this many, or I want, I didn't want to make his pants so tight that it just looked like he had gray legs. I wanted to give some wrinkling around the knees and some shading that I'm adding here to give it depth, because of the style that I've created everything else in, make sure it matches, whatnot. But yeah, so once I get it in here, it's mainly just trying to make final decisions.
Gotcha. So this is when, you're really getting finalized with it.
Oh yeah.
So that's akin to me doing my mastering and mixing process, when I really spend a lot of time in the DAW versus time on my instrument. Just kind of setting stuff up. Man, I tell you what, this has been fun. I've had a lot of fun doing this. This is neat. I enjoy every single one of these characters. I enjoy the sounds that accompany with them, and this soft world building experience that we're going through here. It's pretty fun, man. And just like that. Nope.
Too loud, too loud.